Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. Alhamdulillahirabbil alamin. Wassalatu wassalamu ala sayyidina Muhammadin wa ala alihi wa sahbihi wa barik wa salim. Who is that? Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. Alhamdulillahirabbil alamin. Wassalatu wassalamu ala sayyidina Muhammadin wa ala alihi wa sahbihi wa barik wa salim. نويت تعلم وتعليم وذكر وتذكير والنفع والانتفاع والإفادة والاستفادة والحث على التمسك بكتاب الله وسنة رسوله صلى الله عليه وآله وصحبه وسلم ودعاء إلى الهدى ودلالة على الخير ابتغاء وجه الله ومرضاته وقربه وثوابه سبحانه وتعالى مع لطف وعافية برحمتك يا أرحم الراحمين. اللهم إنا نسألك علم الدنيا مشرب الصافي هاني وهب يا غني. اللهم إنا نسألك علم الدنيا مشرب الصافي هاني وهب يا غني. اللهم إنا نسألك علم الدنيا مشرب الصافي هاني وهب يا غني. صلى الله على سيدنا محمد وعلى آله وصحبه وسلم والحمد لله رب العالمين. آمين. الحمد لله. Alright, inshallah today we will finish. Did we finish the fourth objective last week? No, we have not finished it. We're almost finishing it. Alright, we're up to the last point. Okay, so we're going to finish up the last objective, and then we are going to do a quick revision on all the four objectives, and then we're going to our conclusion. And inshallah, if we can finish this by this week or next week, then the next book that we'll be taking. I didn't touch my mic, so I can't use the mic. So you have to just hear me over the children. I forgot to charge it. Actually, give me the bag there. There's a bag there. But I don't have the wire. I have this mic. Let me try this mic. Okay. I still think that it's not charged also. I keep forgetting to charge all my mics. In case they start to raise their voice. Alright, so yeah, is it on? Okay. Alright, so that we can hear louder. Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. Alhamdulillahirabbil alamin. Wassalatu wassalamu ala sayyidina Muhammadin wa ala alihi wa sahbihi wa barik wa salim. نويت تعلم وتعليم وذكر وتذكير والنفع والانتفاع والإفادة والاستفادة والحث التمسك بكتاب الله وسنة رسوله صلى الله عليه وآله وصحبه وسلم ودعاء إلى الهدى ودلالة على الخير ابتغاء وجه الله ومرضاته وقربه وثوابه سبحانه وتعالى مع لطف وعافية برحمتك يا أرحم الراحمين. اللهم إنا نسألك علم الدنيا مشرب الصافي هاني وهب يا غني. اللهم إنا نسألك علم الدنيا مشرب الصافي هاني وهب يا غني. اللهم إنا نسألك علم الدنيا ومشرب الصافي هاني وهب يا غني. صلى الله على سيدنا محمد وعلى آله وصحبه وسلم والحمد لله رب العالمين. Amin. Alhamdulillah. Okay, so we're continuing, right, to finish the first part, right? So finish the last part, the last objective. So just a brief recap of this book, right? And inshallah we're coming to the end of this book, and I do hope to finish it within this week or next week, so that we can go on to the next book, whereby we will discuss the 40 teaching methods of Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam. We will be going to the book Muhammad the Perfect Teacher, written by Muhammad al-Muallim. There's the Arabic text, and written by Sheikh Abdul Fattah Abu Ghudda. Right, he is from Syria, from Aleppo, right? So, and he was a muhaddith of our time, and he compiled all the hadith that demonstrated the ways by which Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam would teach the Sahaba. Right, the ways, and specifically the ways whereby he would teach akhlaq. Right, because when it comes to subjects, it's easy to teach. And when you compare subjects to akhlaq, right, you want to teach like mathematics, nahu, grammar, whatever. Teaching is easy when it comes to subjects. When it comes to character, you're trying to teach character, right? That is difficult. How in the world do you teach character? Right? How do you correct the character? How do you build the character of a human being? Right? And we know that in Islam, right, the building of the character, the teaching of the character, that is primary, right? And all these other things that you learn are secondary, right? So which is why that every subject that you learn, And everything that you learn, right, the first thing that you focus on is the building of character, right? That is above everything, right? So even when you learn, like, when I always tell my students, when I first began my classes on tafsir, right, on tafsir of the Quran, on the explanation of the Quran, and some of them were complaining that that I'm not going so much into detail with the words, or I'm not so much I'm going too slowly, I'm taking my time with tafsir and whatsoever, right? So but I reminded them that that my own teacher, right, they would remind us that when you learn tafsir, when you learn the Quran, it's not about how many surahs you can finish, it's not about that, right? It's about how have you been transformed by this tafsir. How have you been transformed as a person, as a Muslim, as a servant of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala in your learning of the Quran? So it's not a matter of, I'm going to finish like how many surahs in 1 month. That's okay, you learn the surahs, it's good for you, you learn the surahs, right? But you miss the main point. And the main point is what? To transform you. Right? The whole point of every subject, every knowledge that you take, fiqh, or aqidah, or tafsir, or you take hadith, whatever, the main point of any subject, which is something that is lost in our day when we teach and when we study. Right? Because we focus too much on the subject, we don't focus on what the subject is supposed to do to us, right? And in the development of our character. Right? So that is primary. In all Islamic education, the first thing, right, that is to be learned or to be taught is character. Because Rasulullah SAW, there are 2 hadiths whereby they combine together. So one hadith, Rasulullah SAW says, إِنَّمَا بُعِثْتُ مُعَلِّمًا. Right? For surely I was sent as a teacher. Right? I was only sent as a teacher. So Rasulullah SAW, he would always prioritize gatherings of knowledge because he was sent as a teacher. Right? So there was once he came out into the masjid and he saw 2 circles of people, right, gathered. One circle was seated, remembering Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, dhikr. Right? We know from this hadith, right, you can sit in a circle and dhikr. Right? Because it's a clear hadith, a sahih hadith. He came out, he saw the 2 groups, right? That first group, they were in a circle and they were doing dhikr together. And the second group, they were in the circle and they were learning the religion. They were learning fiqh, right, of the religion. He stood there and he said, both are in goodness. That means both are okay, both are good. Right, both are good, both are in goodness. And then he turned towards the one that they are learning or they are studying, and he said, but I was sent as a teacher. Right? And he sat down with the ones who were learning, studying. Right? And not with the ones who were doing dhikr. Right? Because the ones who were doing dhikr, they can do it, they can handle themselves. Right? But the ones who were studying, they need a teacher to be there with them. Right? So there is one hadith whereby he said that I was only sent as a teacher. Right? Another hadith, Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam. So actually you can bring together 3 hadiths. Right? 3 hadiths whereby Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam specified why was he sent. Right? Why was he sent? Right. 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 So the first hadith, he said he was sent only as a teacher. Innama bu'ithu mu'alliman. Right? I was sent as a teacher. I was sent teaching. Actually, the hadith will be Innama bu'ithu mu'alliman. That means I was sent as a teacher or I was sent teaching. Right. The other hadith, right, Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam says, Innama bu'ithu li'utammima makarim al-akhlaq. Right. So the second hadith, he says that for surely I was sent. Oh, ya Allah. Going for it. Bismillah. Alright, so was Muhammad. And another hadith, Rasulullah said, for surely I was sent to perfect noble character. Right, so the ulama, they combined the hadith. So one hadith said he was sent only as a teacher. The other hadith, he said he was sent to perfect noble character. So what is he teaching? He is teaching noble character. And that is the main thing that he was sent for. He was sent to perfect noble character in a human being. And he had the highest of characters. And a third, not hadith but Quran. And the third one, Quran, whereby Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala specifies that for surely you were only sent as a mercy to all of mankind. Right, so وَمَا أَرْسَلْنَاكَ إِلَّا رَحْمَةً لِلْعَالَمِينَ. That we only sent you as a mercy to all of mankind. So that hadith, the ayat of the Quran can be explained in many ways, and the explanation is vast. Right, what that ayat means. وَمَا أَرْسَلْنَاكَ إِلَّا رَحْمَةً لِلْعَالَمِينَ. Like we did not send you, O Muhammad, except as a mercy to all the worlds. And one of the volumes or meanings that can come from this one ayat, right, is that he was sent as a mercy, he was sent as a teacher, he was sent to perfect noble character, meaning that to teach character, you need to have necessarily mercy. And mercy needs to be in a teacher if she wants to teach. You cannot teach, you don't have mercy. And that is primary. And that is primary. Allah Himself declares in Surah Ar-Rahman, Ar-Rahman allama al-Quran. Right? The most merciful, He was the one who taught the Quran. Right? Meaning that there is no way you want to teach the Quran, you want to teach good character, you want to teach whatever you want to teach. You have to approach the subject matter, you have to approach your students with as much mercy as possible. So inshallah, the next one that we'll take, the 40 methods of teaching of Rasulullah Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam. You can buy it in Wardah books. Right? I will be using my own copy. Muhammad. Right? That book, inshallah, will go into how do you teach your children good character. Right? Some people, Imam Ghazali says, Imam Ghazali has the opinion that every human being is born, right, with flaws in their character. Right? There is no one who is born, perfect character except for Rasulullah Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam. Right? Besides Rasulullah Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam, everybody has issues with our character. We have flaws in our character, and that is why he came to perfect noble character. Right? So while some people, they might have naturally, some good character in them that is more manifest than other people, and you can even see in your own children. Right? Some of your children, they are more giving, right? And some they are less. Right? Some of them, they are gentle, they are not so harsh, and some they are more harsh. And it's the same parents, the same condition, everything the same. It's just that their character they were born with. Right? Some have a temper, right? Temper one kind. Right? Others, they are just gentle. They have no temper. Right? And that is what Allah Subhanahu wa Taala has gifted them, right, with their character. But it does not mean that one is better than the other. Right? But what Allah Subhanahu wa Taala will judge on is how much the person actually strives. So every human being will have their flaws in character. Inshallah, the next book we will talk about how do you teach your children good character. Right? It's an important subject. How do I impart good in myself also? How do we impart good character in our children? And also in that book, the thing that is amazing about that book, Muhammad the Perfect Teacher, Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam, right, is that if now we see our it's coming a thing now whereby people who are brought up on the religion, sometimes they turn away after some time. And we see people, they are brought up but they turn away when they are adults from the religion, right? And if you just bring it all back down, you read their writings, you go back to what they say, everything, you will find that it does boil down to a wrong technique in teaching. Right? And whoever it was who taught them the religion, right, there was a wrong technique that was employed, which caused them, right, to not love the religion, right, and then to be able to detest, right, what this Sharia is about. Right? So when we learn the next book, we will learn how to teach Islam to our children in a way that is the most beloved to them. Right? That is what you want. You want that. Right? Because if you go, you want them to continue and push themselves to find out more, to learn more. Right? You want that in them. Right? That is the function of a teacher. And that is where we are at right now in the last chapter of this book. How do you empower? Right? So this book, 4 maqsad, right? 4 maqasid, 4 aims and objectives of sacred knowledge. The first aim and objectives we mentioned, it is to instill an aggrandization and honor for all things that Allah Subhanahu wa Taala has made honorable and aggrandized. For example, the whole point of learning is to aggrandize Allah Subhanahu wa Taala. That's the whole point. If you don't feel yourself getting close to Allah Subhanahu wa Taala, if you don't feel yourself, being humble in front of Allah Subhanahu wa Taala with the knowledge that you are gathering, that you are attaining, then you have missed the first point. Right? The first point of the Quran is what? Right? To humble you. At the door of Allah Subhanahu wa Taala, to humble you, right? To call on to Allah Subhanahu wa Taala. What's the point of fiqh? Right? The point of fiqh of jurisprudence, right, is to humble your mind, your intellect, that you don't agree with this law or you don't understand the law, but you obey. You humble your mind and you obey, because the law comes from God Subhanahu wa Taala. You look at hadith. What's the point of hadith? For you to see the perfect character in Rasulullah Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam. Right? To see and to aggrandize this man, right, that is your Prophet Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam. So the first point of knowledge, of any knowledge, is to connect the child right, or the student, right? So for us, most of us here, mothers, so your child, right? But for those who are teachers, your students, to connect them in such a way that they are humble and they aggrandize Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala and all that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has made great, of the prophets, of the angels, of hell and heaven, of the affair of this world, of good character. And they make all this great in their eyes. And that will be a guiding light for them throughout life. Then the second point of Zakat knowledge that we went through, the second objective of Zakat knowledge, is a brief summary of what we have taken this entire, how many months? When we start this? I think in last year, November. Okay, so September. Right, a few months we've been doing this book since September. You get like, since September they started this class was ongoing. Muhammad. The second objective is the deliverance of the knowledge itself. Right, and that is only one of the objectives. Right, so sometimes we obsess about delivering the knowledge. Like understand, memorize, know, whatever. Right, but that is only one of the objectives of teaching. Right, the one of the objectives of teaching is that you deliver the knowledge. The first and most important objective is to aggrandize Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala in the knowledge. Right? Then the deliverance. That's why I was explaining to my students when they were complaining, too slow tafsir, one surah you take how long, whatever. Right? I mean, alhamdulillah. Right? But I was saying that it's not so much about number of surahs. It's about how are you transformed by this. Right? So, I'll take my time. And I have no qualms about taking my time. Right? Because, and I'm sure you all know, I have no qualms about that. Right? Because what's the point? The point is for you to internalize knowledge, not to come, memorize, go. And it's not in your life. It's not in your speech. It's not in your character. It's not in your actions. Right? That's not the point. The point is to transform human beings. And that was what Rasulullah did with the Sahaba. He would sit with them and he would talk about one thing. And they will listen and they will be transformed. So you have the life of Sayyidina Umar, who before Islam, was his temper was raving. Right? He was a raging temper. He was someone who did not hold himself. He would do whatever he thinks was right. Right, but after Islam, what happened? Right, he was subdued. Right, he was humble. He listened to Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam. He heard Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam. There are instances in the seerah where you see him being taught. Rasulullah would teach Sayyidina Umar. Right, whereby he would his normal character would come up, and Rasulullah would tame it, right, for him. So the point when Rasulullah passed away, and later on he became Khalifa, he showed the best of character, the most gentle of human beings, the most, they would say ta'anni, and in Arabic that means he will take time to think over things before, going into something hastily. Right? In the past, he will be hasty about things. Right? After the training of Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam, in the madrasa of Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam, in the school of Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam, he was trained to be a person who would think and ponder before he would react. Right? So that is called training. Right, so that's what it's called. You're training your children. You're training your students. You want them to learn something that will be internalized in them. And may Allah help us. Right, so the third objective that we learned, right, is to purify a person. It means purify you of your diseases, right, of your love of this world. Purify you of your arrogance. Purify you of your hasad, right, of your jealousy. Right? It's a purification of the heart, right? To purify you of diseases in the heart. That is the point of knowledge, right? So the subject matter is only one part, right? To aggrandize Allah and all that Allah aggrandises is the other part, right? To purify your students. That so when I was in Darul Zahra and I was teaching them Quran, memorization of the Quran, right? For me, if one of them, right, was to be rude to their friend, right, I would stop her in a recitation and say, that was not right. And because what is my point as a teacher? Of course, I want them to memorize the Quran. Yes, I do. Right? But if you dare be rude towards your friend, like some of them who have memorized the whole Quran, they will say, "Hey, you so slow, ah! You so they will say things to their friends, and that to me is more severe than your friends not being able to memorize. Right? Memorizing is secondary compared to this. Right? That the way you talk to your friends, the way you put down your friends, just because you have memorized, right? That is not the person of the Quran. The person of the Quran does not belittle anybody. Right, the person of the Quran, he's humble, right? And he knows the Quran is a gift from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. So you don't go around commenting on your friend's memorization. Right? So for me, when I was in the primary school, right, that would be my priority. Right? Don't come to me and memorize very fluently, and then later on you diss your friends, right? Of whosoever is weak in their memory. That is the third objective, whereby you purify your students. Right? That means you teach them good character. You teach them. You purify their hearts of whatever negativity they might have that's in their hearts. Mustafa was about to go for it. I look at him and he lie down. Mustafa, can't go for it, right? Can't go for it. They all amazed by the speaker. Okay, dah. Tamam. And now the fourth objective, which is a very important objective. Because the fourth objective, it is what Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says in the Quran, that you are the best of ummas created for mankind. Why? Because you command to what is good and you forbid what is evil. So the fourth objective is basically the objective of spreading knowledge. Right? So when you teach your children, you teach your students, right, an objective in there is that you're going to empower them, right, for themselves and for others. That even as a teacher and you are not there, they will continue seeking this knowledge and they will continue spreading this knowledge. Because as Muslims, we don't keep good stuff to ourselves, right? We give out, right? And you see the sedekah or the zakat of knowledge, it is to teach. That is the zakat of knowledge. The zakat of knowledge is to teach. So now you have been given knowledge. It is a rizq from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Allah has given you knowledge, it's a rizq. Now what is your zakat on you? The zakat is on you is to teach. Even if it's one person, even if it's two people, somebody, right? Somebody, you need to give out your zakat. And when it comes to knowledge. So that is where we are at, and we are now going to finish off that chapter. Right? And Habib, with every Habib Omar, with every objective, he goes into detail. How do you achieve this objective? So it's a very practical book. It's like a manual. It's a manual for teaching. And you can give to NIE. A manual for teaching. And subhanallah, Habib Omar, he taught this book a few years ago under Muiz to all the ustazas in Singapore. Right, so I mean, the students from the madrasas, they came down, and I know because it's a recording. I have a recording of it, and there is no translation. It's just Arabic. That means all the ustazas in madrasas were made to go through this book with Habib Omar, right, to learn it. But it was a three-day crash course, right, 3-day dawrah, right, and then he taught the entire book to the asatizas of the madrasas, right, so that they understand that when you teach these students, these girls, these boys in the madrasas, right, what are you teaching? Right, what are you imparting onto your students, right? And the last thing is that they be empowered and that they have in them the deep concern of spreading this religion, right? Of spreading all that is good to those who are around them. So here you have, we are on number 19, and number 19 is my teacher, Surah Zainab, she says never discount number 19. Number 19 is the most important part for us to focus on. Number 19, this book you can actually buy it at one of the books. You can buy the book. Right. Number 19, she says, right, Aqdu jalsat khasah bin nisa لِتَعْلِيمِهِنَّ وَتَذْكِيرِهِنَّ. Right, this is something very important. For you to establish circles of knowledge amongst the women. Right, the women need to be taught. Right, and in fact, when Habib Omar, when he first founded Darul Mustafa, right, in Tarim, a year later, he was going to build Darul Zahra. And in fact, he was met with a lot of opposition in that he wanted to build Darul Zahra for girls. Right, but basically, because at that time when he built Darul Mustafa, it was after the communist regime. Right, and what the communists had done to Yemen and Tarim at that time was that it had not only destroyed a lot of institutions and a lot of what the people used to do, they had caused some sort of a dumbing of the people. Right, because they prevented the teaching of religion, right, communism, right? They prevent the teaching of Islam. So there was a generation of people who were not exposed to correct teachings. And the ulama, they would learn in secrecy. Right? Otherwise the communists would kill them. Right? So they would learn in secrecy, and so that the masses, they were left and they lost their religion. Right? And the same thing is happening in China. Right? In China, or happened in China, or is happening in China. Right? In China, there are the Huis, right, who used to have scholarship amongst them. They used to be very well educated in the religion. Right? But because of communism, there is now people who are Muslim who have no idea anything about Islam. Right? Because they were not allowed to teach, right, the religion. So it happened in Yemen. Right? So when the communists were driven out, what was left in Yemen was a community whereby there was a lot of ignorance. Right, because of the years of communism. And so if you were to go to Yemen, you will find that there are two extremes. Right? There are those who are very, very strong in their practices, and then there are those who are not at all strong in their practices. Because the ones who are strong, they are from the ulama who are learning secretly. and those who are weak, right, they are basically the common people who were left. But now they are reviving. They are reviving, and alhamdulillah, it's spread. Right, they are re-teaching their people, right, of what was lost because of what was to undo the damage done by communism, right, what it has done to the society. So when Habib Omar he first built Darul Mustafa, right, a year later he was to build Darul Zahra, and that he did because it was said like he had a vision whereby Sayyidina Fatimah Zahra came to him. I mean a dream. Sayyidina Fatimah Zahra came to him and said to him, build a house for me next to my father's house. That means Darul Mustafa is the house of Mustafa, the house of Rasulullah. It is a school whereby they teach people secret knowledge. So she said to him, build for me a house next to my father's house. That means Darul Mustafa built Darul Zahra for women, right, where you teach women, right. So that's why Darul Zahra came about, the house of Zahra, the house of Sayyidina Fatimah Zahra. So when he was going to do it, there was a lot of opposition, right. The people of the land were against it, right, because of the damage done by communism. Right. They had the opinion that women don't have to learn, right. Women don't have to be taught, right. Women just sit in the house, just know how to cook, know how to clean, and that's all for you. Nothing else more for you. You don't have to know anything, right? But and they were against this, this like, why do you want women to know stuff? And why? Because to build a school for women would mean to employ women, to teach the women, right? You will have to employ women to teach women, which means that women will be coming out now to a school and learn and teach. Women will be traveling around, right? So there was a lot of, like this mentality that no, we don't let our women do that. No, women don't have to do that. They stay at home, right? They don't have to learn all these things. But Habib Omar, despite all the objection and whatsoever, and in fact, there were some of the ulama at that time who were also against it. Right? There were those who were also against it. Right? But he didn't care. He did what he did. He was commanded anyway. Right? So he did what he did. Right? And mashallah, Darul Zahra, when he built Darul Zahra and he found Darul Zahra, he had the intention that every girl who graduates from this school, Darul Zahra, right, that by her, she will bring life to entire nation, right, wherever she goes. And Ustazah Zainab, right, she told me that if you go, and Darul Zahra was founded 20 years ago, right, so the students have been coming out. It began in a room in Habib Omar's house. So you're not thinking like he founded a school. No, the school was in his house in the room. And the teacher was Habanur, basically. And there were 8 students. Like 8 students in a room. They slept with her, they ate with her, everything with her. Right, she and them, that's all. Right, this was the first batch that began in Habib's house. So Sayyidina Muhammad, and then it grew. Now it's entire school, right, of students coming in and out, all over the world. Right, so subhanallah, if you go to Indonesia, right, and you see the students, especially the first few that came out of Darul Zahra, in Habib Omar's his intention and his dua, it came to fruition. Right, full fruition all over the world. Now it's all over the world, you see, all over the world. Right, so in Indonesia, you say every single student, Sazana was telling me, every student has her own school. So you have a group of students who went back to where they went, where they came from, and they made their own school. Right, so every girl has her own pesantren. Right, every girl has her own madrasa. Right, and you go to Sweden. Right, there was one of the sisters who was of the first few batches also. Right, her name was Rahma. She went back to Sweden, and by her, one person, so many women got brought back. So many women got educated. I mean, subhanallah. And then you go to the UK. Ustazah Najiba, she brought to life an entire community of women, right? In the UK, right? In America, in all over the world, it is happening. Right? From where? From this small school that began. Because why? Habib knows, right? And it's from the legacy of Rasulullah. Because in the Rasul's time, it also happened. The women were complaining. Right, the woman said, "Ya Rasulullah, the men hog you." Right? The men basically take all your time. You're always with them. So she came. There was a woman that came to Rasulullah and they voiced out. And we know the sunnah of women. Right? Women want to learn and say you want to learn. Say I want to learn. Right? So the woman went to Rasulullah and they said, "Ya Rasulullah, put aside a day." Suggestion. Put aside a day whereby only us women come to you, no men. Right? Because when the men are involved, they hog you. Right? They take up all your time. They ask you all the questions. We are at the back. We can't ask you anything. We are the sideline. So have a jalsa, just us and you. Right? And Rasulullah SAW, he didn't say, no, you're a woman. You stay at home. Don't come here. Be happy. Sit at the side. Right? No. He said, okay, marhaban. Right? So he put aside a specific time. Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam, a specific time whereby the woman would come and sit with him and he would teach them. And we have hadiths of what happened in those jalsat. The woman would relate what they learned from Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam, because he would specify, he would mention things that are specific to women. Right? And Darul Zahra right now also, once a week, Habib Mashhur, who is the Mufti of Tarim, will come down Darul Zahra every Friday afternoon. Hanisa, pay attention, go for that jalsa. Where is Hanisa? Every Friday after Zohar, be in Darul Zahra. Right? Habib Mashhur comes, because I didn't know about it until later on. And I said, he comes here every Friday. No one told me. Right? So he comes and teaches the woman fiqh. Right? Fiqh. So the Mufti of Tarim does that. Right? Come down. And he himself has 2 lessons every week at Darul Faqih. Darul Faqih is a school also only for women in Tarim. Right? Whereby he sits with women. Right? And he will only, in the way they do it, you see, they teach women, but they still maintain their adab. The adab of teaching women is completely maintained. So in Darul Zahra, there's a small room at the back, whereby he enters from there and he sits there and he speaks to the wall. Basically, the women are in the musalla and they can hear him loud and clear. So he has not looked at them at all. He just speaks with the book and he teaches. And they will send in questions through writing. Right? And he will answer. In Darul Faqih, he will sit there and his mahram women are all around him. So his daughters, his granddaughters, his wife, his sisters are all around him. Then the women are behind, the other women. So he speaks to his family and he's teaching. And he will teach tasawwuf, he will teach fiqh. Right? And I used to attend that lessons also. And those are amazing lessons that they put aside time for the woman. Right? But easier than that, is that we empower the woman and we teach the woman, so the woman teach their like. Right? Women teach their own like lah. Right? So because there are certain things when it comes to religion, especially fiqh, you don't want to ask a man. Right? And it happened to me when I was at last week. I was at Masjid Khalid. I teach them tajweed, not fiqh, tajweed. They had some fiqh questions about women. They want to know the fluids that come out of the woman, but their fiqh teacher was an ustad. So they were specifically wanting to know what is the madhi. Like how do I know the madhi? How do I know what's a madhi? And they wanted to know, how do I know what is the money of a woman? I mean, it's a thing you don't ask an ustad. How do you ask an ustad that question? Like, describe to me the madhi of a woman and the madhi. How do I know? Because one requires you to bathe and one requires you to take wudu. They are different hukum altogether. One is not najis, one is najis. How do I know what is where and what came out? You're clueless, right? So and they wrote down the question, and they were like, they want to ask ustad, so shy to ask ustad, right? So when I came in, one of them they knew that, I mean, okay, alhamdulillah, I know fiqh. So alhamdulillah. So she took me the question. Okay, I'll answer for you all. Right, so I just gave them 15 minutes of my lesson, fiqh. Right, then I went to tajweed. Because they could ask more questions about istihada, so these kind of things, like you need is even for Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam, and even for Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam, when women would come and ask questions about their head, right, and really, like men will be like to answer all these questions, he would actually, there are instances whereby he would direct them to Sayyidina Aisha, ask her, right, because he would teach her fully all the hukum. So she's a woman, right? And then she is now a master in this science of the discharge and the head and whatsoever. She would be directed, all women will go to her and ask her all these issues. Right? So then, so because at times that there are riwayat whereby he would show some shyness. Because the people of Medina, they would actually come with their cotton to see the color. They would actually come with a box with the cotton inside and the color of it. Right? So they would come and they would bring to Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam. Right, so is it because they want to know the fiqh? And Rasulullah said in the hadith, blessed are the women of Ansar. Right? Blessed are they, because modesty did not prevent them from learning. They want to learn, am I clean or not? And as women, you must know, am I clean or not? Do I bathe? Do I pray? Do I stay menses? Do I stay in any fast? What am I doing? Confused. What do you have to do? Show the color to the teacher to tell you the hukum. So if your teacher is a man, there's a shyness. Correct? But some says, Allah have mercy on the women of Ansar. Shyness did not prevent them from learning the religion. So they would come with their box and their cotton inside and the color to show Rasulullah. But there are riwayat whereby he would be shy or embarrassed. He would be shy, embarrassed, and he would pass Sayyidina Aisha. You talk to them, right? But that shows that women need to learn. Women need to learn, whether from a man, whether from a woman, right? And of course, there needs to be women scholars, right? And even in the West, I think it was Sheikh Umar Farooq, one of the Western Ustads, he himself said that we need to train our women to a level of scholarship. Right? We need to train our women, right? Because the women need women. Women need women to talk to them. Right? In the affairs of marriage, in the affairs of children, in the affairs of husband, women need women to talk to them. In the affairs of menses, this is our big affair. Right? And in fact, one of the books I learned with our Maryam, right, was a book of fiqh. Right? The writer was someone who was very well versed in fiqh. And the way he would write, he would bring out all the anomalies, of fiqh situations. So like wudu, all situations that would break wudu, and all instances that can happen to you when it comes to jama'ah, what can you do, what can you not do. Like, it is a very comprehensive book. But when he came to the chapter of menses, right, it was a very short chapter. And then he commented and he says that this chapter is very short because men don't have menses and women don't ask their questions. So I don't know what to answer. No one's telling me anything. Like, but the other chapters, is because of his experience as a teacher, he compiled everything. But menses, women ask me questions and men don't have menses. So that's all I have to say to you all. 7 days, 24 hours, 15 days max, whatsoever, very dry. No, no anomaly cases. But we know menses has plenty of anomaly cases. And when you know that Nifas has a whole books written about the different possible situations that can happen to a woman, right? So if you're a normal Nifas and menses, alhamdulillah, right? Don't be abnormal if you're Nifas and menses because it can be very complicated. But that's why women need to be trained, right? So this chapter, right, this point, he says to establish specific circles of knowledge for the teaching and reminding of women folk, right? And specifically the book that in our other class that we're going to, Zakat of Knowledge, right? That book Habib has specifically mentioned to spread amongst the women. The women need to know that book. They need to know that book, right? So inshallah now I'm doing it one class, but I want to translate it into English. Right? It is in the Malay. Malay exists. I want to make it into English and make it bigger, right? Because it is the one book that Habib Mashur gave me ijazah on and said teach this book, right? So that is the one book that from Habib Mashur. Usually most of the books are from the Darul Zahra. That one book Habib Mashur was the one, right? He taught us the last part of that book and then he gave ijazah, right, for that book, right? So that book, it has to be spread because it's a book written specifically for women, and for women, everything a woman needs to know about her religion is in that book, right? So, and we know that women, and there's a saying that teach your woman. I'm not sure if it's a hadith of the saying of the ulama, but it's a saying that says teach your woman because they are the entire society. Right? Why is that? Because they make up half society, they're women, right? And they give birth to the other half. I mean, they give birth to men also, right? So when you rectify your woman, you have rectified society, right? Because they are going to be the teachers of your children. Right? Your women are the teachers of your children. So you rectify your teachers, you rectify your children. You rectify your children, you rectify the entire society altogether. Right? So women from a very young age, modesty is taught, humility is taught, turning away from the world is taught, zuhud, to turn away from things of this world, of beautification, of glamour of this world. It's a disease in the woman. And we know there's a saying also that the men have one nafs and there is the woman, and the woman have a lot of nafs, and all her nafs is around the dunya. The dunya, what people say, what I wear, how I look, whatever lah. Right? My children compare that children, compare my child and this child, who is better, or like whatever lah. I mean, they have all these like jealousies and comparisons to each other, and who is more beautiful and who is more what. You never hear men ever say to each other, who's more handsome, me or my friend? Like you will. Now God, and may Allah help us. Right? But I mean, boys in the past, they wouldn't really care. Like, but we were like, she's so beautiful. She's so pretty than me, right? So we compare things. So women need to be taught. It's all under tazkiyah. It's under tazkiyah, purification of the woman. Right? She needs to be taught. She needs to, mashallah, learn who are the best of women of the past. And Sayyidina Khadijah, Sayyidina Fatima, Sayyidina Asi, Sayyidina Maryam. Right? They're the best of women for us to learn, right? And I was actually, if you want copy, I don't know. But when I was talking to my husband, right, that just the other night, just to share lah, it's to spread if you all want to try also this. That it is a sunnah, right, of Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam to name everything. And I mentioned this before in my previous class a few years ago, right? To name everything, right? And he would name his sword, he would name his horses, his car, his goats. He has no horses, he has no goats there, no cows there. He would name his camel. He would name his shield. He would name his imama, right? Everything had a name for it, right? He would name rooms, right? Rooms to be named. So Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam, so Habib Umar in Darul Zahra, every room is named. Every room has a name. So it's not called room 101, that kind of thing. No, it's the room of Kalthum, for example. It's the room of Sayyidina Zainab bin Jahash. It's the room of Sayyidina Ruqayya. It's the room of, so every new room will be named, right? And they say the room will hold up its name. Right, it will hold up its name. That means the girls who will study in that room will have a trace of the woman. If it is dua lah, his dua will have a trace of the woman of that room. Right, so the musalla in Darul Zahra is called musalla bid'atul Mustafa. Right, the musalla of a part of Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam, because Sayyidina Fatimah from a hadith, Rasulullah sallallahu said that Fatimah is a part of me. Right, so there is a musalla of Sayyidina Fatimah, but a part of Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam. So that means anybody who goes into the musalla, right, inshallah, you will have the traits of worship of Sayyidina Fatimah Zahra. Right, and of course many people only Allah Alam. So Sayyidina Muhammad. Right, so I was like talking to my husband like, if let's say we have rooms in our house, okay, if we're getting a house, we have rooms, right? And most of us we have like a boys' room and a girls' room where the sons and the daughters are, right? So you can copy that if you want, but then the room will be named Kummalun Nisa, right? Ghurfa Kummalun Nisa. Kummalun Nisa are the 4 perfected women. So it's the room of the 4 perfected women, and the boys' room Khulafa'ur Rashidin. So the 4 men, Sayyidina Umar, Sayyidina Abu Bakr, Umar, Uthman, Ali, because all characteristics I want them in my sons, right? Sayyidina Umar of truthfulness, of firmness in truth. Sayyidina Abu Bakr, Sayyidina Umar of courage and justice, right? Sayyidina Uthman of leniency and gentleness, and Sayyidina Ali of intellect and wisdom, right? And then the 4 women, all of them have their characteristics. Right, Sayyidina Khadija of sacrifice, Sayyidina Fatima of worship, Sayyidina Maryam of chastity, modesty, and Sayyidina Asiya of closest to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, and is of direct connect to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. I mean, all 4 of them have their so that the girls' room will be copy, You're gonna copy now, right? The girls' room are going to be Kumalun Nisa, and the boys' room are going to be Khulafa'ur Rashidin, right? And then the hall where it's going to be the place where I would teach, or my students would come and learn, right, would be the house of Ibn Abbas, right? Because Ibn Abbas, he would have continuous students come in and out of his house throughout the day, whereby he will teach. So the knowledge of Ibn Abbas, who is the inkwell of the ummah, will be inshallah there. Right? And then you name things, right? And then your kitchen, you name your kitchen. So the kitchen of what? And what kind of, name the kitchen of, halal and tayyiban, the kitchen of good and pure. So whatever comes out is only good and pure, and halal and pure. And you name your kitchen. You name you're gonna, like a small musalla that you make in your room. You put aside a musalla in your room. Okay, you name the musalla. What is it going to be called? You're going to copy the Mustafa. It's going to be called Musalla Ahlul Kisa. The Mustafa musalla is called that. The musalla of the people of the cloak, right, is the Mustafa's musalla. You're going to be calling that, right? The musalla, and then your own bedroom. What are you going to call it? Right, so each of these you name, right, and because it's a sunnah, first thing you intend a sunnah of Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam. It's his sunnah. He would name things, right, because whatever you name, it will get the attribute of, right. So instead of calling it the living room, Kayla is a living room, right, you give it a better name. Right. If you call it the kitchen, I call it the source of all goodness. Right, or the source of all health, or the source of iman, the light of iman, whatever, right? Our library, small library, the small shelf, right, is called Maktaba Nurul Mustafa, right? The library of the lights of the chosen one, of the Mustafa, right? Because knowledge is a light. That is what knowledge is. So we name our library also, even though it's in one corner, right, in our room. But it's not a room, right? It's a corner, but it's called something, okay? Right, so you name things, and then you have the, inshallah, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala will give you the reality of the name. Right, so now you're going to go back and say, how many rooms do I have? The balcony lagi, What will I name my balcony? I don't know. Yeah. The window to paradise. Allah. And then Allah says, Muhammad. Anyway, I tell my mother, this house is a lot of rooms. I can start naming all the rooms. Alhamdulillah. Alright. So that is number 19. Number 20. Inculcate within others a concern for the conditions of Muslims and a desire to direct themselves to their improvement, ratification, and success, as they are all one body. From a hadith, right? All Muslims, they are one jasad. Right? If one limb is suffering from any form of illness or any form of difficulty, then the rest of the body will experience sleeplessness and fever. Right? That is from a hadith of Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam. To implant, to really implant in them the feelings or the concern, right, for how the Muslims are, specifically their spiritual state. Right, because the physical situation, of course, we're concerned. The Rohingyas, the Palestinians, the Syrians, we're concerned. The Yemenis, we're concerned about how they are physically, right? But we have a bigger calamity happening in our own land, and our calamity here is the concern of their spirituality. Right? Where are they with their iman, their aqidah, right? Their fiqh, right? Where are they with Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, their prayers, their fasting? Our society is in you would say it is in a big calamity. Emergency basically. It's an emergency going on in Singapore because we have a lot of people who have left the religion or not practicing the religion. So you're supposed to inculcate in yourself and in those around you a concern. A deep concern for all Muslims. وَتَوَجُّهُ فِي شَأْنِ إِصْلَاحِهِمْ. Right? And to focus yourself or direct yourself and your students and your children to try to rectify those who are around you, especially your relatives. Right? وَفَلَاحُهُمْ وَنَجَاحُهُمْ وَأَنَّهُمْ كَالْجَسَدِ الْوَاحِدِ. Right? And that you are concerned that every person, every human being, every believer, right, succeeds in the next world. And that was the concern of Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam. He is seeing souls around him and seeing souls that are in distress, they are in loss. Right? So you see that in your child, you see that in your student, and you teach them to see that in those who are around them, so that you see them in the eye of mercy. That the whole point is to take them by the hand and pull them to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And from there, your teaching will be guided. Because you're focused. What are you focused on? You're focused that they are guided. Right? So you're not going to get upset about small issues, right, in your teachings. Because you're going to look at a bigger picture. And you're going to arrange your words with people. Because you want them to accept the knowledge and the advice. Right? If you're going to be harsh to everybody, if you're going to be rude to everybody, then you're not loving them, that you want them to accept the advice. Right? Because if you're harsh, what will happen? You might say what is true. You might. And it could be true. Very well, it could be true. But you have failed in achieving your purpose, which is that they change. And what's your purpose? They accept the advice and they change. So sometimes as teachers, and actually all the times as teachers, we have to look, how do you say it? Right? Because the whole point is qabul, that they accept. You want it to be accepted. That's the point, that you want it to be accepted. This is also the ulama say that if you know a nahi al-munkar will not be accepted, in fact, it will cause them to be more angry against you, or cause them to cut you off, or whatever. Right? Then what is more preferred is that you keep quiet. You keep quiet and you conduct yourself in the best way. And perhaps the nahi al-munkar will come from your actions. That means from your akhlaq. Right? But if you see that your words will drive them away, then it is on you not to say. Right? It's actually on you not to say, because you're not going to achieve the effect. So Amr bin Ma'ruf, and means commanding to the good, and nahi al-munkar, preventing what is wrong, there is a science to it. Right? The ulama have written about it. Right? It is not blatant like that. Right? But you have to see your audience, see what they are and see what they can take. Right? Because you don't want to be, and in the du'as of Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam, don't make us, from the Quran in fact, don't make us a fitna for those who don't believe. That means I am a trial for those who don't believe. That means because of me, they run away. And because of me, they turn away. Right? So you don't be that person who causes everybody else to hate Islam, right? Or to hate the religion, or your children to turn away from this religion. And so as a teacher, this has to be a concern, and a concern that you will be transmitting to your children, right? Because and that you are concerned for everyone, a deep concern for everyone, right? Because Rasulullah says in the hadith, right, that this ummah, the Muslims, they are kal jasadil wahid. They are like one body. Iza shtaka, right? When one part complains, minhu aduwwun tada'a lahu sa'il jasad bisahari wal huma. Right? So if one part of the limb, right, is in pain, right, it complains about pain, right, then the rest of the body will be sleepless and will have fever, right, because of one part of the body being not right. Right? So as Muslims, right, we are concerned, we see the whole ummah as one body. The entire ummah is one body. If one part of the ummah is suffering, be it physically or spiritually, right, we are concerned. Right? And that's why, we have in our du'as every day before Maghrib, 27 times, we say, Allahumma fir, Rabbi fir lil muslimin wal muslimat. Allahumma fir muslimin wal muslimat. Right? Oh Allah, forgive the believing man and believing woman. Every day, 27 times. You say before Maghrib, and you say it before Subuh, 27 times. Right? Rabbi fir lil muslimin wal muslimat, mu'minin wal mu'minat. Rabbi fir lil muslimin wal muslimat, mu'minin wal mu'minat. Right? Of that, or there are other ways of whereby you can say it. Rasulullah says in the hadith, right, in one of the hadiths of Sayyidina Ali radiallahu anhu, when Sayyidina Ali asked him, how do I strengthen my memory for the Quran? And Rasulullah taught him the salat of Quran memorization. And in his teaching of Sayyidina Ali, he said to Sayyidina Ali, "O Ali, before you make the dua, right, praise Allah, send salawats onto me, and seek forgiveness for all the Muslims, the dead and the alive." That means it's part of dua. Before you dua, you say, you seek forgiveness for all the Muslims, whether they be dead or alive, and especially people of the land. That means your own people, because your own people are your priority, people of this land. Right? So that is how, that is the minimum we can do to show our concern for this ummah. The minimum that we can do. And then we ask Allah to forgive all Muslims, dead or alive, especially in this land. Alright, last point. Okay, the last point. Alright. So here he says, travels in the path of calling to Allah have a distinct effect in spreading knowledge, reforming character, and attaching the hearts to inviting to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Certain travels are intended to remind and benefit the general public. Others are meant to strengthen the bonds of brotherhood in different localities and to visit and help one another. And others are meant to increase the fraternal bonds between travelers, to rectify their character, and to connect their hearts to inviting to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Travel should be organized keeping in mind these three objectives. And the appropriate place, time, and program should be selected for each. And success is with Allah alone. Wabillahi tawfiq. Right. So the last part, he speaks about travels. So in case anyone, you want to go for travels, like what are the intentions that you can make when you are going for travels, right? So even if you are going just for a holiday, right, make some intention that whoever you meet along the way, the light of Islam will be spread to these people. The light of Rasulullah will be spread to these people. You make intention, so don't waste your travels, because you're going to be meeting people that you might never meet ever again in your life. Right? So wherever you go, you make the intention. So here he says, وَرِحْلَاتٍ لَهَا أَثَرٌ فِي نَشْرِ الْعِلْمِ وَتَقْوِيمِ الْأَخْلَاقِ. Right? So to travel, there is a reality in traveling that it does spread knowledge. So even if a land already has their own ulama, and we know most lands have their own ulama, they have their own scholars, their own teachers, right? But we know that the foreign teacher has a different effect. Right? The foreign teacher has an effect on the people of the land, and it's human nature. It's actually human nature. Right? So when it comes to da'wah, we don't fight human nature. We know how human beings are, even if human nature is so shallow, right? I mean, they're so human beings lah. Like we know that human beings, they like to see, some like in Allah's sunnah, that human beings like those who are good looking. Right? So if you look at it, subhanallah, Allah has made all of his, the great teachers of the past all good looking, and every prophet is good looking. Because it's the shallowness of human beings. Human beings like those who are good looking. Very frankly put. Right? So the nature of human beings is as such. So the scholars, you look at them, they tend to have good looks. They tend to. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala gives it to them. Right? Or if not, Allah gives them a light in their face that is attractive to all human beings. Right? And the prophets had that. They are the most handsome of their people, and they have the most light. Right? And they have eloquency in speech. Right? Because Allah has to give this to them. Because if not, people will be bored. and turn away. Right? You want the people to listen to the people. And human beings like what is foreign. We like that. We like things that are foreign. Oh, foreign person. Oh, foreign colleague. Oh, foreign colleague. Oh, like basically, I mean, in the past, and now we're all complaining about foreigners. Right? But you know, we tend to like what is not what we know. So even a person in an own family, right? If their own relative is a teacher, ustad whatsoever, sometimes you find them going out somebody else to learn from, and not their own relative, because they use their own relative, right? So they want somebody else, right? And that is normal. Even children, sometimes the own parent, right? Sometimes, like, unless you have trained them very well, right? But for a lot of my students, when I give tuition, their own parent can be teachers in schools, right? Secondary school teachers, primary school teachers, but not tutoring their own kid, because the kid will not listen to them whatsoever. Right, but inshallah, all of your kids are listening to you all. You can teach your own kids. Right? To be able to teach your own kids is something that is trained. You train your kids on learning, you are a teacher. Right? But a lot of my students, as a tutor, a lot of my students, they don't see their parents as teachers, even though their parents are teachers. Right? They will not see it. So the parents have to employ somebody else to teach their kids, right? Because their kids just won't listen to them, and because it's not something that was trained from a young age. For me, alhamdulillah, my mother trained us. When we were young, she's our teacher. Right? So sit down, study time. Right? So it's something that can be trained. Right? But sometimes they just want somebody else. Right? Somebody else tell them what is right and what is wrong. Right? Someone else. So that's why he says that there is a secret and there is a wisdom, right, in traveling, right, to spread the message, in going to other countries and spreading the message, even though you know in that land there are scholars better than you, right? Or there are scholars who are more capable, or they can even teach themselves, right? But like for example, like Zainab, I will always put her there and I translate, right? Even though if I'm able to teach a book, I might be able to teach a book, right? But it's better that she teaches and I translate, right? Than me sitting there and teaching it all, right? Not me, right? Her, right? Because it's a different tasting. It's a foreign person, right? With a light in her face. Right, so there's a secret there. Right, so even though I'm able to teach a book, I don't. Right, because why? I'm you all know me. Boring, right? Boring. A very boring person who's sitting in front. So you get somebody who is different, who is subhanallah, human nature. Human nature. They are attracted to what is foreign. So he says there is a distinct effect in going and traveling to spread knowledge, in reforming character. Right? Learning character. Right? So in traveling with someone of good character, you will learn a lot of character. If you ever travel with anyone with good character, you'll be so amazed. Right? I think I don't know whether I shared it or not, but someone's posted on Facebook about Ustaz Usama Cannon. Right? And he his story is very mashallah. If you know his story, he's very mashallah. He spent only a very short while in Darul Mustafa, very short while. He was told to go back because he's gotten it. He's gotten it. He has gotten it. 6 months. Went back. And he's established his institution, Ta'lif, for converts, for those who are seeking Islam, spread far and wide. Right? He teaches the Book of Assistance. When I was there, that was what he was teaching. But he does teach here and there. Right? Many people have entered the religion on his hands. Many people have come back to religion on his hands. Right? So there's something. Right? If you all have ever met him. When I was in Zaituna, I went for his classes. There's something there. Right? There is a madad. Right? There's a help. Right? So someone wrote about traveling with him. Right? And you will see that these people, they have a natural character, right, to them. I mean, a very good character to them. So when you travel with them, right, and those that travel with Habib Omar, travel with Abdul Qadir, travel with all these people, you will see a lot of humbleness in them. You see how beautiful they are with Muslims, non-Muslims, how they speak, how they take care of themselves. They don't really leave things dirty or they have high akhlaq. That when I spend 1 week with Zainab, you see so much about them that you don't see them in class. They don't see in class, right? But in their private lives, that's so much more amazing. In their private lives, their Quran, their zikr, their salawat, their whatever, their talk to people and everything. You learn so much from them. So traveling with them, right, there's a secret in there. If you're able to travel with them, right, you're able to see a lot of good things. Of course, on the other hand, you might be exposed to a lot of bad things. Right, for those who are, they have their flaws. You might see that also. Right? So two ways. Either you'll be so amazed or you'll be so put off. Depending on who you're traveling with lah. Right, depending on who you're traveling with. Right. But it does reform character, traveling does reform character. And it attaches hearts to inviting to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Because when you travel, you leave your entire home behind and you're just 24/7 focused on da'wah. And that's what it is. 24/7 focused on da'wah. Right? If you ever read, who wrote about it? Someone who followed Habib Omar around, right? Through Southeast Asia. Right? They would follow Habib Omar through Southeast Asia. And they will say that his classes are... no other chair. The horse. Alhamdulillah. Like his classes are back to back, right? And while the people who are serving him are all flat after the whole day, they're so tired, exhausted, he would just see them, they will fall asleep, and he will stand and pray. And he would pray the whole night. And not exhausted. Like everybody else was flat. And so Zainab herself, when I was with her, she will be serving me because I'm so tired. And she's not tired. And she's my teacher. Right, but they will be up early in the morning, preparing breakfast, serving their students. And you're supposed to be the one who's supposed to be serving them. Like, but you see this thing about them, right? That they have this beauty, right? That is in them, in traveling, and it attaches the hearts to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, right? And he says here, and وَتَقْوِيمُ الْأَخْلَاقِ, that means to establish good akhlaq. وَتَعْلِيقُ الْقُلُوبِ بِدَعْوَةِ إِلَى اللَّهِ تَعَالَى, right? And to attach, ta'liq in the alaqa means to attach, right? Hearts to the calling to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. وَمِنَ الرِّحْلَاتِ مَا يَقْصُدْ بِهِ تَذْكِيرِ الْعَامَةِ وَنَفْعِهِمْ. So the first type of traveling, it is to remind and benefit the general public. To remind and benefit. So you will see that they will just give lectures to remind, right, about forgiveness. Like if you notice, and they will always focus on what land they're in. And what land they're in, they will suit their lectures to it. Right? So like, whenever Habib comes to Singapore, it's always something about mercy and something about forgiveness. Always. He will not talk about anything else. Because the people of our land, right, we need a lot of mercy of our state. We need a lot of mercy and a lot about forgiveness. When they go to Malaysia, right, they do talk about bid'ah. And they do talk about Ahlus Sunnah wal Jama'ah. They talk about that. And you will see them talk about, because in Malaysia there's a lot of ajaran sesat. So they will suit their talks to the people. Right? So in Singapore, it's all about forgiveness. Because we're all sinners. I mean, we're all sinners. But a lot about, going back to Allah, turning back to Allah, taubat. A lot about rahmah, Allah is there, Allah is merciful. Right? Have hope in Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, don't despair. Right? The talks are all very gentle talks. Very gentle. Like Habib, subhanAllah, you hear them talk very gently to the Singaporeans. Because we are people, our hearts break very fast. So we need gentleness. But if you go to Indonesia, you will see, a hardness in the talk. Because they need to, there are different things that different people need, right, in the different talks. So you will see them, they will suit their talks according to the people. Right? And then the other intention, so the first intention is to remind and to benefit the people. The second intention, right, is that you want to strengthen the brotherhood between lands. Right? So that means for them coming to other lands. So now you know somebody of that land. Right? And then you are connected. Right? So now, like my teacher Zainab, she is connected to the Singaporeans because she met the Singaporeans. So she has a love for Singaporeans, and then you have a special place in the du'as because she has met the Singaporeans. So whenever they go, and for us to attach to them, right, to know about these people who come from other lands. So it brings the ummah closer, right, in its ties. So in traveling around. So even for us as common people, right, when we travel around, we have all of these intentions that you want to remind those who are around us. Even if it's just the bellboy or just the waiter or just somebody that I'm going to remind. Someone in the aeroplane, someone in the train. You make an intention to remind somebody along the way. And then you make an intention to strengthen bonds of brotherhood. Which is why Habib wrote in this book that whichever land you go to, go and find out who are the ulama of that land and go and visit them. And go and find out who they are and where they are. Right? Or at least go to the mosques of the land. Right? So that you can sit in one majlis, right, of the land. Right? So get the benefit from that land. As how you get your rizki for food from that land, you get your rizki for knowledge and spiritual sustenance from that land. Right? So whichever land you go to, find the institutions, sit down with the people. If you go to America, go and find, Zaituna, go and find Ta'lif, go and find where are the mosques, right? Sit with them. If you go to the UK, go and find who they are, right? Sheikh Abdul Murad is there, right? There are few Western teachers who are there. Go and find where are the Muslims. You go to Sweden, go and find the Muslims. You go to Australia, go and find where are the Muslims, right? And then to benefit from their from their rizki that they can give you, right? And then Sayyidina Muhammad, right? And then the third one, it is to increase the bonds. ما يقصد به التذكير عامة ونفعهم ومنها ما يقصد به تقوية السلاح بين الإخوان في مناطق وتعاونهم وتفقدهم ومنها ما يقصد به تنمية الإخوة بين الخارجين وتقويم خلقهم وربط قلوبهم بالدعوة إلى الله تعالى. Right, so the third one is that those who are going in a group, so you intend that those in the group get more united. They get closer to each other. That means you grow closer to each other. So when you go travel with Tarim, for example, in a group, so you intend closeness in that group, right? So that together you improve yourselves towards Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And then the last part, right, he says that, and also Sayyidina Muhammad, that's number 3, number 3. فليرتب لكل نوع من هذه الأنواع 3 رحلات تفي بالغرض وليلاحظ الاختيار المكان والوقت والإعداد البرنامج نعم وبالله التوفيق. Right, so that with these 3 in mind, right, so you should be able to connect to organize your time, right, so that you can always have these 3 objectives in mind, right? 3. So the first one is to remind the people there and to benefit them, and of course yourselves be benefit. Right, second one, be benefited. Second one, it is to strengthen the bonds of brotherhood between 2 countries. So you go there, so you meet other countries and especially other Muslims, right, so that you know each other from around the world. Right, and the last one is that the one that you're going in a group with, right, those people you have a bond with, right, and that you strengthen them and you encourage them for da'wah to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, right, and that from there your travels will all have benefit to those who are around you. Right, so inshallah next week, out of time, inshallah next week I will do the conclusion. Right, the conclusion is the most, I would say, is the most important part of the book, the conclusion, right, because Habib, he redirects us. He speaks about what a teacher must be equipped with, right, if you really want to teach his religion well, right. So he, it is the most important part of the book for us to go through as parents, as teachers, right. So inshallah, next week we will go through it, right, and then thereafter it will be the book Muhammad, the Perfect Teacher. I'm super excited to go through them. Super excited. Huh? That book lah, Muhammad the Perfect Teacher. You can buy it from other books. Is there? Right. Sallallahu ala al-Fatiha وحسن التعليم ودلل الهدى ويسور بذلك قبل النبي صلى الله عليه وسلم وإلى المعلمين والمشركين وأصدقائنا وإلى قدم صلى الله عليه وسلم. الفاتحة. بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم والعصر. سبحانك اللهم وبحمدك أشهد أن لا إله إلا أنت أستغفرك وأتوب إليك. صلى الله على سيدنا محمد وعلى آله وصحبه وسلم. الحمد لله رب العالمين.